What if losing everything wasn't the end, but a beginning to something much bigger? Welcome back to Why the Fuck Not series. This is where we explore moments of doubt, fear, self imposing limits, and developing that mindset of why the fuck not. Let's see what's on the other side of this challenge. My name is Lucky DeJesus, and each week I will be sharing a story of overcoming obstacles and the lessons I've learned through my journey. Whether it's in fitness, in business, or in life, it's about taking that leap into the unknown. So today we're going to dive into a personal story of mine about a massive, one of the biggest failure I've had in my life. And it's about losing my business during 2020, during COVID. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. For about 10 years, I've been working as a nurse, and I got to a point where I'm like, do I continue working as a nurse, or is it time for me to start something new? And I'm kind of in this crossroads here. And something happened at work where I'm just like, you know what? It is time for me to leave and start something new. But at that moment, I was kind of going back and forth. What do I want to start? What do I want to do? And I was a member at a local fit body boot camp. This facility was amazing. Big shout out to Bryce Henson and his team at Mission Viejo Fit Body Boot Camp. They really changed my life during some of my hard times. And all I have to say, it was a really good experience and the way it made me feel. I was looking into the franchise and I'm like, you know what? If their team did that for me, then why can't I do that for someone else? Why can't I make someone's day, that 1 hour of working out, the best day of their day? So I looked into it, and sure enough, we decided to pull the trigger and open up a franchise down here in Orange County. And this was 2019. So the way we funded the business is we liquidated all of our assets. We sold our house, we moved back in with my parents. And that was hard. It was especially hard on my wife because it wasn't her home. Even though she has a great relationship with my parents, it wasn't her home. So she always felt like she had to tread lightly. But we liquidated everything. We put all the money that we got into the business. My dad was also a silent partner, which he also pulled from his retirement to help me out, which I'm forever grateful for. As the business started to grow, I brought in a pretty solid team of coaches where we started seeing these amazing transformations, these results of healthy living, people losing weights, people tackling new challenges, doing their first 5K as a team, and just seeing the excitement in their faces when they're losing weight. They come in and tell me they have to go shopping for new clothes. Seeing the success through my clients and how we're affecting their lives was just amazing. We opened our doors probably by the end of December 2019, I think officially January of 2020. And we're going strong 3 months in. I'm already looking at working my way out because I had a solid team within my location. As I stepped away, I had to work at an event called The Project, where it's another self-development program. And we'll dive into that in another episode here. But as I'm at this event, one of my coaches says, no one's showing up to the gym. And keep in mind, my location was packed. It was busy. Again, I was looking to work my way out so that I can find another coach to bring in. So that way, again, I can continue growing the business instead of working in the business. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And they mentioned there's something called the Wuhan flu or COVID. And I'm like, you know what? If they're afraid, they don't have to come in. If anything, just tell them to wash their hands before they come in, and everything should be fine. And sure enough, the day I get back from that week-long event, I'm like, okay, it's 2 weeks. But deep down inside, with my medical background, I know 2 weeks is really not going to do anything. And as we start to head into the summer and even into the winter, 2 weeks is not going to do anything. And sure enough, we close our doors for 2 weeks, then a month, then another 2 months. We try to pivot into virtual online training, trying to find a way to continue to deliver, grow the business, but at the same time, try to keep our doors open. At this point, my finances are bleeding out, right? It's our very first business. We haven't made that break-even point. We've been only open for 3 months before we had to shut our doors. And we didn't have a core set of members or foundations to keep us going. I'm like, how are we going to make it through? I want to keep pushing, keep pushing. Financially, it did not make any sense. I did not want to give up because my wife and I threw everything we had at this location, knowing that I will be successful. We can liquidate our assets and eventually buy a newer property, newer place. And ended up having to make the decision to close down the business. That was the hardest thing that I had to decide that it doesn't make sense for us to keep going. We don't have the financial to maintain it as members start to drop out because they're not getting income. It just was a losing battle for us. So eventually we ended up closing our doors 6 months to opening up our doors. And that was hard. It hit me really hard. This was my baby. We threw everything at it. And all of a sudden it's gone. Just like that. Gone. It was tough. I felt like a failure to my family, to my wife, to my clients, most importantly to myself, because my wife she believes in me and questions everything. But at the end of the day, she has no doubt in my ability to make sure things happen. And we kind of have a saying, we'll figure it out. We've got this. So anytime things get hard, we look at each other and say, we got this. But this was difficult, knowing that we're going to have to stay in the house for an unamount of time with my parents. I knew that drove her nuts. And again, nothing bad between my parents and her, but it was just difficult for her to be a place that she can't call home. So I call up Bedros, who is the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp at that time, because we built this relationship. And I was like, hey, B, before you hear it between your team members at HQ, I just want you to know I have to close my doors. Financially, it doesn't make sense for me to keep my doors open. I have barely any members left, and those who want to continue to support me isn't enough to keep my location open. Over the phone, he's like, you know what? We're actually looking for someone to bring on board at HQ, actually on onboarding franchisees. And I think maybe you'd be a good fit for it because you just went through the whole process. Long story short, he brings me on board and I get to be around these amazing people. I get to work closely with Bedros, with Bryce Hansen, and everyone at HQ and start to learn. As things start to develop and grow, I ended up leaving FitBody and I'm here doing media now, doing something that I feel like I really love doing, that creativity. Looking back at it, in high school, I wanted to be in media and film, but the barrier to entry was so much higher than what it is now. So that was one question my sister posed to me. Hey, after high school, I know you really enjoyed video and photography. How come you didn't go into it? And I said at that time, I felt like it was out of reach. Cameras were expensive and the technology wasn't all there. Maybe it's an excuse, but for me, it didn't make sense at that moment. But now, having built up some camera equipments along the way, I started off with the real estate business where I'm taking photos of houses that I've never would have ever stepped into and meeting these connections of people, working with high profile clients and learning from the best in the industry. I would not have been where I'm at today if it wasn't for taking that leap of faith, of trying to open up a business and say, you know what, we're going to do this. Why the fuck not? What's going to happen? And, one of the big supports that I got from my dad, because I felt like a failure in his eyes, I looked at him. I was like, Dad, we got to close the business. It doesn't make sense. He looks at me across the table and I just in tears. And he says, you know what? It's only money. It's only money. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you can make more. It's only money. Even though it hurt him in his retirement because he's not going to see that money back, he didn't look at me as a failure. He looked at it as a way for me to grow, as an opportunity to understand business and that money is out there. It's not as scarce as a lot of people make it out to be. We have to find the solution for people to have that exchange. You have a problem, I have a solution, here's that exchange of money. And what B told me is the larger the problem is, the bigger you can charge for the solution. So all of that stuff really came from taking that risk of opening up a business, and it trickled down to a point where I am today. Do I wish I was better off? 100%. But this is all about the journey, the process of learning, taking that risk, pivoting from that risk, and continuing to move on. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how much money we have. It's not about the people we know. It's about the impact you made with other people that you've met along the way in life, the legacy you're going to leave with your kids, the people you know. I want my kids to know that my dad was a risk taker, and sure, he kept pushing. That's what I'm going to do. And, a lot of this podcast, this video is a really big push for me to keep my legacy going, to affect my kids' life, their grandkids' life. And hopefully they'll find a way to pull lessons from this. Really, failure is not bad. It's just a new opportunity for us to grow, to learn, to take more actions a little bit faster because we've gone through the process already. Why the fuck not? Let's just get this shit done. Let's do it and make it happen. And we'll see what happens. What's on the other side? It can be great, or it failed. We learn, we keep moving. And really, the lesson of that day is, as long as you keep moving forward, build that resilience in understanding that every risk that you take, there is going to be a consequence. It could be a good one or a bad one. But as long as you don't give up, because of that risk, there's going to be more opportunities if that would not be present if you didn't take that risk. And again, for me, I am within a network of people that I'm very blessed to be around because of the initial risk of opening up the Fit Body location. If it wasn't for the risk of opening up a Fit Body location, I would not be around these amazing people that I can call brothers, that I can call friends, that I can consider as mentors. And I'm just very fortunate to have taken that risk. Honestly, my wife would have to agree. We've earned our money back and more. And it's all because of that risk. I want you to take this opportunity to reflect on any failures in your life. If it's been bothering you or eating you up, I want you to dig deep down, separate yourself from that failure and look at it from the outside. If it wasn't for me when I took that risk, would I have met that person? Would I be where I am today? I'd love to hear that message, because that is a message that will help encourage others, knowing that, hey, I didn't quit. I didn't give up. Yeah, it was a massive failure in my eyes, but because of that failure, I became a much better person. So if this episode gave you new perspective on failure, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, share this with someone you know who's maybe going through this whole process. I feel like if we build this community of support and being able to look at failure in a different set of lenses, we're going to be in a much better place. So thank you again. My name is Lucky De Jesus. Hope to catch you on the next podcast.